April 2024 update on the Spit 6 project. As I've been working on dismantling some of the pieces off the GT6 that I'll be needing, I'm going to give you a quick update here. Removal of the driver's seat was an absolute pain in the neck with corroded bolts and fasteners, whatnot. It was very difficult to get out, but the use of a grinder, I was successful in removing it with the help of my son. The passenger seat, luckily, was already removed from the car. I removed the door for a couple of reasons. First of all, it had to come off because that's the door that I'm going to use for the Spit 6, because the Spitfire does not have a vent window, the quarter vent window. As you can see, there's a Mark IV Spitfire in the background there, and there's no provision for a vent window. Probably one of the cost-cutting measures that they did. And also, the bolts came out without any issues, surprisingly. Again, I used the various penetrants, and once I got the initial torque broke loose, they came out very easily. So it's interesting how the cancer on this car is confined to certain areas, and certain areas were not affected. This is all the rust and metal that we just knocked out, ground out, whenever we get the seat out of the car. Good Lord. I deliberately destroyed some of the upholstery because it was already shot to begin with, but I had to do it in order to gain access to try to pry the runners off the floor. I basically am not concerned about the slide tracks, as I'll be replacing that on this car, but the seat frame is primarily what I needed. Possibly the seat basket, which is underneath, but I have a couple extras of those. I also plan on taking this seat, and over here on the European models, this is actually where the frame ends, and on the US models they added the extra hoop there for the headrest. So I'm going to return this back to a European specification, which does not have the headrest. Going to try to use as many pieces off this as I can, such as the engine, transmission, drive shaft, rear suspension, differential, and the front suspension. Of course, renewing everything in the process. I have an assortment of penetrants here. I've been using a cocktail of things to try to get the engine freed up. May involve having to take it apart, force the pistons out, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I'm starting to remove like the clutch master cylinder pieces. Some of those I may reuse as far as re-sleeving it with stainless steel, or I'd rather do that, I think, than buy some cheap Chinese part that's going to fail in 6 months. But the car is starting to come apart. The floors, as you can see, are absent pretty much. And here's what the car kind of looks like at this point. part of the process during the disassembly, which is very important. A lot of people don't take the time to do it. They just throw the nuts and bolts into coffee cans, and then you're left with trying to figure out what parts went where. But what I've been doing is I basically go to the store, I buy these freezer bags, 1-quart freezer bags. And that way I'm able to bag and tag every item, because if you're like me, your memory begins to fade after a while, and you get cluttered with so many other things from day to day, you forget what those parts were. So in closing, I'd like to leave you with some pearls of wisdom that a friend of mine had given me years ago when he constructed a kit car. And he basically said, do something to the car every day, no matter how trite. Whether it's a simple nut or bolt that you're removing, keep that momentum moving forward. That way your project won't sit there in the garage with everybody else's boxes and things stacked on top of it.